Friends, welcome to my channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It's not difficult for you, but it's nice for me, and we're starting. There was no desire to get up and take any action at all, but the memories of the past days were intrusively creeping into my head. I involuntarily held my breath, as if I were listening, as if she was hoping to hear the answer to the question, what to do next? Thoughts swirled, mixed like colored glasses in a kaleidoscope, and took on bizarre shapes. Reflection. Did it make sense now to analyze your actions and understand the causes and consequences? What has been done cannot be changed, and there is no escape from the consequences. If I open my eyes, get out of bed, and the consequences of yesterday's decision will fall on me. At the moment, I realized that it had been secretly maturing in my head for a long time. Constantine's appearance at the company, the spark that ran between us, became a kind of trigger, a trigger that pushed me to action. I decided to break the circle, get out of your comfort zone, to leave behind 10 years of a prosperous and to some extent happy family life, a fairly successful career, previous acquaintances, and an established way of life. To start over. Because the feeling of dissatisfaction with the current state of things, and, most importantly, the inability to realize his desire to become a mother has been accumulating in his soul for the last 2 years since his spouse took the CEO's chair. Now his words about workload and fatigue no longer sounded as convincing as before. Mikhail has reached the heights he aspired to. He was pleased with his position and enjoyed the result of his own efforts. He relaxed and enjoyed life, realizing his own desires. Yes, my husband continued to work hard, but it was a job to keep the result. We have long since eliminated the need to calculate and plan the family budget in detail and scrupulously. There were no new goals that needed to be implemented. I no longer saw any other objective reasons to continue justifying my husband's unwillingness to embark on the path of fatherhood. The spring of my patience was twisting more and more. And, as you know, it is not unlimited. Now I was inclined to agree with those scientists who seriously call love a disease that overshadows people's minds. I probably started to heal from this ailment, and I have a stable remission to this disease. But despite this, I felt emptiness and heartache. Intellectually, she understood that it was pointless to feel regret for missed opportunities, that it was much more expedient to focus on new ones. But at the moment, I couldn't get rid of an irrational fear of the unknown. I didn't have a clear plan for further actions yet, so I cowardly hid under the covers in a stupid attempt to delay the inevitable and rejoicing in loneliness. The cheap hotel room was empty. My intercessor, which remained unknown, continued its flight. He left me without even trying to wake me up, but he scribbled a note in which he indicated his number and asked me to call him. And in this written form, he assured me that he would be glad to meet with me under more favorable circumstances. Naturally, I was not going to call, although I felt grateful to this knight of the roads for putting his reliable shoulder in a moment of my confusion when emotions got out of control. My intuition was right. The man did not try to take advantage of the situation and my vulnerability. He really behaved like a noble knight. Although why am I surprised? Only a pervert is able to enjoy making love to a woman who is unconscious. And I passed out in his arms on the way to his rented room and slept soundly the whole time. I didn't even hear him leave. So the result is quite natural. Apparently, the nameless knight also made sure that no one bothered me and did not rush to turn me out into the street, which is undoubtedly for the best. So there is time to think. Yesterday, I overreacted by telling my husband that I was filing for divorce. Considering Mikhail's connections and the fact that he has a whole staff of lawyers, it was not worth even mentioning a lawyer. In general, I do not want to bring the case to court at all, which means that I will have to talk to come to a solution that will suit both of them. I certainly should have foreseen where, how and on what I would live before deciding to commit treason. Again, the thought flashed that it should have been done differently, a logical female logic, but the hidden resentment against my husband, plus a small amount of alcohol and a flared desire overshadowed my mind for a while, and emotions prevailed over common sense. Now I was trying to think soberly and rationally. I had my own financial safety net. Misha has never controlled my income. It was probably the only thing he ignored. I saved 10% of my earnings every month. I have clearly learned this principle of financial literacy. And there was also a house in an urban-type settlement in the neighboring region, an inheritance from my beloved grandmother, with individual heating, water, and other benefits of civilization. It is quite suitable for year-round living. I mentally thanked my grandmother for such a generous gift. I would not have to return to my parents and my penchant for nostalgia for not succumbing to exhortations to sell this unnecessary ballast, in my husband's opinion, requiring landscaping. Yes, we had to allocate funds for its maintenance. But now, in the current situation, the issue of residence can be considered resolved. Involuntarily, she smiled at the memories of a carefree childhood. I owed my upbringing to my father's mother. In fact, she was the only person really close to me. It was with her that I lived almost until I came of age, while my parents were busy moving up the career ladder. They rarely visited me. We didn't spend enough time together. It is not surprising that there was no complete understanding between us. That's how the circumstances turned out. But Mikhail has repeatedly used this fact in our disputes as a convincing argument in defense of the fact that we should not rush with the child. Mishka is by nature the undisputed leader. Having a practical mindset, he is able to think objectively and carry away. Handsome, with a great sense of humor, who does not go into his pocket for a word. He is always the center of attention in any company. But at the same time, he is a terrible pragmatist, becoming more and more cynical every year. I remembered how it all started. Then a very young guy, he surprised all his friends and acquaintances by starting to take care of me, a freshman. At that time, I was definitely not the star of the economics department. She shunned city boys and girls, avoided noisy parties. Something broke in me after my grandmother's death. I suffered from loneliness, misunderstanding, parental reproaches, from the need to adapt to new conditions. And she became more and more withdrawn into herself. Mikhail managed to involve me in the company, caressed me with attention, picked up the key, became close and necessary. With him, my world began to play with new colors. Naturally, I fell in love. She was attached to him with her soul. For the first time, she became passionate. My heart began to beat violently in my chest, as if trying to jump out, to leave my body defiled by someone else's hands. For a moment, it seemed strange to me that I decided to commit treason, that I could betray the man who had been the center of my little universe for many years. No, I was not naive, unable to assess the events around me from a critical point of view. I knew women who did not see anything reprehensible in cheating on their husband and saved their marriage by cheating. How am I different from them? Probably because she decided not to pretend. I can't and I don't want to pretend that everything is the same with my husband. And even though I'm at a crossroads right now, and the fear of uncertainty is squeezing my throat with a cold vice, but there is simply no way back for me. I remembered a friend who had a regular lover. They have been dating for several years, and all this time. When the conversation turns to this topic, Rita sighs languidly and assures him that she loves him to madness. And then he begins to lament that he cannot separate from his spouse because of the children. It was beyond my comprehension. She believed that it was a matter of indecision, of fear of change, which forced her to adapt, to sacrifice her own desires, to compromise with her conscience. I didn't judge other women. Alas, she was deceived for many years, preferring to live in illusions, indulging in impossible dreams, feeding on the fruitless hope that someday the situation would change. In general, it is difficult to understand what motivates people in a given situation, what they are guided by when making decisions. And you can't figure out who measures their lives and the lives of their loved ones by what criteria. So my action will not cause understanding and sympathy. I will need the strength to cope with the barrage of condemnation that will surely fall on my head from my parents. Will I have enough self-control and composure? Will I be able to keep my composure and keep my emotions under control until everything is resolved? Divorce. I really hope that Mikhail would not want to publicly shake up our dirty laundry in court and would agree to divorce by mutual consent. Still, it's not easy for him to make the fact of my betrayal public. Of course, everything secret becomes clear someday, but I'm going to disappear from all radars. So Mikhail will be able to come up with a convenient version of our separation for him. The only thing I'm going to claim is a car. In principle, Misha will not be able to stop me from doing this. Legally, the car is registered in my name. I shook off the fear and numbness that had held me down. Ready to take action? She took a deep breath, opened her eyes, and pulled back the covers. She got out of bed resolutely. I'll start faster. I'll finish faster. Only after dealing with this will I be able to go to my grandmother's house and start a new life. Sitting at the same table in the cafe as in the early morning, I drank coffee, looked at the dusk gathering outside the window and thought. My cell phone recorded about a dozen incoming calls from my parents. There were no fewer messages in the messenger, demanding in various forms to explain what was happening to me. What for? After all, none of them made an attempt to hold me back when I left the apartment. It didn't occur to anyone to ask any questions. Obviously, they had time to draw conclusions or make assumptions about my prolonged absence from home. And now you are eager to be aware of what is happening? Or is it worth thanking Mikhail for this again? Their disapproving looks came back to mind. What exactly I was accused of and tried for was anyone's guess. However, I wasn't really interested in it. I was trying to build a line of behavior that I would follow in conversation with my husband. I hoped that I had calmed down enough to maintain my dignity in talking to him. I didn't want to slide into an unnecessary showdown under the circumstances. Who is right? Who is to blame? A pointless activity that won't change anything. Explanations with parents cannot be avoided. You'll have to say something sooner or later anyway. I'm unlikely to be left alone. Finishing my coffee, I caught the interested glances of a few visitors, including several young women. Bright makeup and clothes that left no room for the male imagination eloquently indicated the type of their activity. Among other things, there was suspicion in the looks of these priestesses of love. It's like they saw me as a competitor. I thought this was quite likely if one of the employees of this roadside complex shared with them information about what happened here a few hours ago. I put the bill on the table and hurried out of the place. That's who I definitely didn't want to explain myself to. So it's with prostitutes who can thin their hair for a place in the sun and will not hesitate to spoil their face. Sitting in the back seat of a taxi, she leaned her head back against the headrest and closed her eyes, trying to mentally tune in to meet her husband. Today and tomorrow, our company announced a day off, taking into account the event that took place the day before. And at least there was no need to worry about work right now. I drove home, having no idea what was waiting for me there. I still haven't decided what I'm going to tell him, as I argue my own decision. In any case, a conversation is inevitable. What kind of whim has come over you? Can you explain? Her husband's words made her shudder. I didn't notice him in the dimness of the living room. Is he that much better than me? Earns more? What the hell is wrong with you? The husband was sitting on the couch, twirling a glass of cognac in his hands, maintaining an outward equanimity, deliberately speaking rudely. It was clear that he was choking with rage, and he was trying to hurt me. So, I compared all the facts and came to a logical conclusion. It's so much better. Her husband's words rang in her head, but she remembered the long fingers trembling with impatience, palms that slid over and over my body, caressing in search of erogenous zones. The way he held his breath, listening to my soft moans, catching a response. Hot, greedy kisses. Hot lips. The passion with which he took it over and over again. Insatiability. Gentle words that he whispered, burying his face in my wet hair after intercourse. I hadn't noticed any of the above for a long time, but I didn't attach any importance to it. She smiled bitterly. Our love has become a routine, a weekly obligation. Why did it take me so long to notice the obvious? Why did she justify any action by Mikhail? Did you love me? And you? Can you explain why you don't want a baby with me? I walked slowly into the room and sank into my favorite chair. I lit the floor lamp to see his face better. You know, I just realized that you've never brought up the subject of children yourself. I've already told you the reasons 100 times. Misha looked at me with annoyance. The only reason for the last 2 years has been your desire to live for yourself. I tried to relax. Ignore the hard, burning gaze of my husband. What about my wishes, Misha? I did not hope that he would really understand the true reason that pushed me to cheat. Of course, this was not the best way to end our relationship, but it was a slim chance to get pregnant. What are your wishes, Irina? I don't recall you complaining about anything. Come on, tell me, what were you missing? The husband leaned forward. He rested his elbows on his knees, gripped the glass tightly in his palms, and looked at me condescendingly. The best defense is attack. I have also voiced my desire to become a mother to you more than once. Do you think that's not a good enough reason to think about finding another man? I didn't look away, meeting his gaze. A man who will take responsibility not only for himself, but also for his family? That wasn't entirely true. I had no matrimonial plans for Constantine, but it's pointless to say that I didn't feel anything for the guy. My desire to be in Bones's arms was no less than his desire to possess me. For the first time in 10 years of marriage, I looked at another man with lust. If I say that out loud, I'll be laughed at. And I really didn't notice the other men. I was not tempted to experience intimacy with anyone other than my husband. Why? I don't know. I didn't have an answer to that question. Are you silent? You know, I've changed my mind so much over the last 10 years. I've read so many articles on this topic. I kept trying to figure out why. What is the real reason? After taking a breath, she licked her dry lips. I've tried so many times to convince you that we can handle everything, that we will be able to handle any difficulties, that you have everything you need to be a great dad, that I'm going to be a good mother, that my love is enough for you and for the child. But you kept looking for reasons, and I gave up. You fool. The crystal glass shattered against the wall with a clink. Fragments littered the expensive carpet. Get back to your lover. To hell with it. To hell with it. Get out, so that your spirit is no longer here. Mikhail was breathing noisily and glaring at me with a hateful look. This is my house too, in case you've forgotten, she replied quietly, hoping to extinguish the scandal that was about to break out. We should arrange a divorce. I'll take my car, personal belongings, and documents. I do not apply for an apartment. Any monetary compensation will be fine with me. I fell silent, taking a pause and giving Mikhail the opportunity to make sense of my words. I think it is in our common interest to divorce by mutual desire. I summed up the conversation. Mikhail took a deep breath, got up and took a step towards the door, but stopped. I'll call you when I'm ready to go to the registry office. He went out. A minute later, the front door slammed. Are you still admiring your beloved on Instagram? Aren't you tired yet? Marinka, a childhood friend, went to the table and sat down opposite. Can't you forget everything? He quickly found a replacement for you. I've probably been having an affair behind your back for a long time. Don't start. I tore my gaze away from the laptop screen and looked into an angry face. Did you bring the milk? Leaning back in my chair, I mechanically stroked my strongly rounded stomach with my palm and smiled when I felt a faint stirring. So who else will take care of you? Marinka threw up her hands. All alone, to give birth from day to day, and no one is around. That's what you don't like about Pashka, huh? I burst out laughing. Her spontaneity was touching. Well, why are you laughing like a horse? After all, a prominent man. He earns well. Hands grow from where they should. Out, I fixed your porch for free. And all because I've been in love with you since I was young. And she turns around every free minute. The friend was getting more and more excited. And I'm ready to accept your child. Well, what else do you need, you fool? I closed the laptop, leaned forward, intercepted her restless hands and squeezed lightly, urging her to calm down. Marin, come on. I'm fine, she said as convincingly as possible. I did the report. Yeah, lie to someone else. What don't I see? My eyes are wet again. She pulled her hands free and stood up. Okay, I'll go. What's the use of shaking the air? I put the milk in the hall. She watched her friend go. I remembered how I ran into her in the store on the third day after my arrival and was extremely happy. I thought there was no one left in the village who had known me since childhood, that everyone had gone to the cities. But no, not all of them. So Pashka is here too. I met him at a car service station when I brought my car to that. I didn't even recognize it right away. I've matured so much. Yes, he's a really good-looking man. And the hands grow from where they should, and the mind is not deprived. I managed to open my car service and promote it. Memories were coming back to my head. My clumsy attempts to get the guy's attention. The timid courtship of a still awkward teenager. A kiss stolen at a disco. Who knows how it would have turned out if my parents hadn't taken me to the city. And now, the girlfriend is right. I have a feeling that Pashka is always there and ready to help, no matter what I need. Call me, he'll come rushing in the middle of the night. It's amazing that he's still single. 35. An enviable bachelor. Anyone would be happy to go for such a person. Why would he need a divorcee with a trailer? Dimka pushed in his stomach, reminding him of himself. Soon, baby, very soon I'll see you. I'll take it in my hands. My sweet one. I cooed, stroking my stomach. Indeed, to give birth from day to day. We need to finish the report to the tax office. Working as an accountant on a remote site suited me perfectly. I could plan my own day and run several small companies in parallel. Here, the experience from the previous job came in handy, and the ability to reduce debit with credit. I closed Mikhail's Instagram page and opened the report. I wasn't going to deny the possibility that my ex-husband might have been having an affair behind my back. That wasn't what was upsetting. The reason for my angry tears was the position of his chosen one. The young woman in the pictures, whom he was hugging carefully, was pregnant, and this seriously hurt my pride. 10 years. I waved away the intrusive thoughts that were creeping into my head. It's God's will for everything. Grandmother's words came to mind. Who will we indicate in the father column? An employee of the local registry office puzzled me with a question. Somehow I hadn't thought about it in advance and was frantically trying to figure out what to say. My name is a girl. Next to my documents, a passport of a citizen of the Russian Federation was placed on the employee's desk. Right? Right. Do not hesitate. So you have different surnames with the woman. The girl, confused by Pavel's determination, stretched out doubtfully, looking through his passport. The names are different, but it won't be for long, he said with confidence. You see, if I had known that I would become a father, I would have hurried to formalize our relationship. A childhood friend who was in love with me lied shamelessly. I would not allow my son to be born out of wedlock. Well, you know, the liar winked at the pretty worker of the Department of Civil Registration of the Population. So in that case, a joint declaration of paternity is required. She shifted her doubtful gaze to me, waiting for a rebuttal. End.